Yeah. I am filming this as casually as possible because I want to get over my imposter syndrome about making long form videos. That's just part of me that's always thinking and rethinking about how to do this, and even this mic is not working. Hi everyone, my name is Mini. I'm a licensed and registered therapist here in Malaysia, and I'm a huge enthusiast in mental health conversations, whether if it's something that I've learned in therapy with my clients or as a therapist with my mentors, teachers, supervisors. Being able to be in this space of like experiencing and talking about mental health every single day is something that I don't take for granted. I used to work in the corporate and in schools, and I find that those are not my places because the conversations about mental health, the degree of vulnerability has been all-time low. I found it very draining. So this is the space that we will do that, and I want to talk about what mental health means to me. Now that I'm stepping it into like 5 years into being a therapist, and then for the past at least a decade after my graduation in psychology, and because October has been Mental Health Awareness Month, I've had the most conversations about mental health with the laymen, people who are not in this industry, normal people. I wouldn't even consider my family as like the normal group of people because they hear me say it and they know like my life experiences. But I know a lot of people do not have this kind of conversation, or they do not have this kind of safety to explore conversations like that. And that makes me really sad. That makes me really sad. And sometimes when I say I feel privileged or grateful that I can do this as my job, mostly because I'm surrounded with people who are so understanding and understand the depth of mental health conversations and how important it is. And it's not just on a level where oh yeah, okay, I'm okay with you going to therapy, but really like understanding the many angle and perspective and nuance of talking about mental health. Let me give you an example. I've had this opportunity to do mental health talks in this more secluded area. I remember very clearly someone said to the other person where, I don't think you need this, you always show up so strong. You've been in this industry for such a long time, you're in a higher position, you probably don't need this. At that point, I remember I'm just like, do I correct you or because I'm there as a provider. And it just makes me think that we are all in this journey of learning about mental health, learning about our own emotional needs along the way. I got to do it on such an in-depth level where I took a master's, I work in this industry, I take multiple extra trainings to learn how to hold space for other people. And there are also a lot of people who needs that awareness that this is a thing and this is a real thing. So that saddens me a little bit, right? And in that situation, if I were to turn back time, I don't know if I would do things differently. Many of you who watch this probably know something about mental health, or you are very passionate about mental health conversation. You've probably felt this frustration before because how do I make them understand that this is important? Yeah, there was part of me that wants to go into like full education mode, but there is also one part of me who looked at that and say like, wait, okay, what would be the most helpful thing right now to help this person understand that mental health conversation is for everyone? I mean, I get why you have that thought because this person look like they have got this together, but we never really truly understand what the other person is going through. Sometimes it's good to open that space for this other person to make sure that they're not judged in those situations. And I know that this person's intention is not bad, it's just a lack of information. I guess comes to my point about talking about empathy. A lot of people think empathy is to provide that space when someone feels sad, vulnerable in the situation. I remember just looking at that and I'm like, okay, wait. If I were to take his perspective on why he felt that way, then it makes a lot of sense. Probably in this person's household, culture, they don't talk about mental health. And if this is the chance they get to kind of have that first touch point about mental health, that's great, isn't it? You know, empathy is hard to implement, especially when you're in a place where you feel angry or you feel wronged. And I remember, yes, I felt that like frustration, like, do I correct this person? You know, when we got a chance to have a chat, I check in with this other person what his knowledge on mental health is, what his experience with mental health is, and turns out there are so many misinformation. And that's why probably he made that comment. In the end, this person was super grateful for the conversation because he realized that, oh, there are so many things that I don't know. Sometimes people just don't know what they don't know, and that's okay. I just want to share, like, this is where I'm at in terms of mental health conversations. I used to be that like very hardcore advocate, you know, you need to like, everyone needs to know about mental health. But now I won't call it mellowed down, but more so I'm at a place where I realize that mental health conversations comes in different sizes as well. Some people can digest bigger chunks of information because of their upbringing, because of their resources, they're able to access all this information. And for some, they just don't have that privilege. They just don't have that privilege to even talk about emotions, for example. So that really puts me into a very different perspective, and also to re-educate myself in terms of what mental health conversations look like. Speaking of empathy, I think a lot of people also misunderstand what empathy really means. I've given talks on empathy, I think probably 3 to 4 times so far. So one of the questions that's being asked mostly is, how do we not feel too much? You know, what if we burn out because we feel too much? A lot of people think that being empathetic means you pour yourself, like you sacrifice yourself to take care of this other person's need. But that's not what empathy is. If you have watched like Brene Brown's video on empathy, that itself, it's such a good one. Like, I've watched it for so many times, and every single time I'm still amazed with how she's able to capture what empathy means. And this video is just really well made. Empathy, at the end of the day, it's really about perspective taking, and to be able to come down to this level with this other person to see their reality. That was exactly how it looks like when I hear this other person make that comment, right? I was able to kind of take his perspective and be at his level to see that reality. At the end of the day, if I were to throw out bombarded words or give this like whole big picture of what mental health is, I am not going to help push mental health conversations forward, because there's no such capacity to understand this big thing. Just like when you're in a place where your reality is that I'm stuck, I'm exhausted, I'm burning out, no amount of big information is going to help you get out of that situation. At that very moment, you probably just need someone to see your reality so that you feel heard, and so that you're able to kind of borrow that empathy to take in new information. When someone is actually drowning, you probably can't teach them how to swim. No amount of teaching or new information, or even just saying like, Lannister, come here, you know, just swim forward. no amount of that would actually help them to calm down, or at least realize that, ooh, I actually have that space to move forward, for example. Empathy is really coming closer to this person who's stuck, to be able to see that reality of like, okay, now I get why you say you're stuck. You know, the seaweeds are maybe wrapping around your leg and you might find it difficult to move. When you're able to see that reality, you're gonna be able to help better. You're able to offer better help or offer better care for this person. When I understand this concept of empathy does not equals to saving, it has helped me manage my burnout so much better. I now understand that when I offer that care, that space, it does not mean that I need to cut off a piece of me to offer that help. I could still be me while still provide that space for the other person. Ultimately, I think at this moment, I finally understood the point of talking, to have that quote unquote safe space to offer people to talk about things. Some clients sometimes comes in for a stuckness that they are feeling, and in the session we uncover a lot of like emotional baggage. There was a lot of like very cathartic crying, release of emotions, and then almost immediately, I would say down the road, after that one session, they come back and say, I don't know how, but I no longer feel as stuck. I did not think I was doing enough, but turns out that's all that's needed sometimes. To be able to hold that space, to allow this other person to process those emotions, and to have someone to hold that and not be afraid of that emotion. Because so often when someone is crying, we all feel slightly panic or awkward about the crying, right? We try to like calm the crying down, we try to stop the crying, but to be able to hold that sadness, that anger, that guilt, that shame is actually hard. And also to be able to hold that space for celebration, for achievements, for joy, for gratitude is also such a privilege. I'm definitely at a place where I feel a more in that gratitude, and also just feeling a lot of that lately, that how lucky am I to be able to talk about mental health this way, to be able to like do what I do, you know. And I'm very, very aware that this is not the end. I'm still in this progress, but I'm probably at my most comfortable state where I am very okay that I'm a work in progress. And I think that's what empathy looks like. To know that this is my reality, to know that part of wanting to be where I want to be in future is to constantly feel this assurance and also this groundedness that I feel now, and be okay with that. To be okay that I still have a lot I don't know, yet I also know enough. Happy Mental Health Month. Wherever you are, I hope that you continue to celebrate yourself, celebrate your small wins, to take care of yourself, because you very, very much deserve all that compassion and kindness that you have for yourself. Thank you so much. Bye.